Welcome everybody who's going to be watching this back. I'd like to introduce you to Kevin McLaughlin. Kevin is a primary teacher based in Leicestershire in the UK. He has taught or been teaching for the last 15 years and has always been inspired by the use of technology and has been using it in teaching and learning for the last 15 years. Today Kevin is going to retell a story about how his current school went Google. He will break in his discussion in the three areas and will then allow everybody ask questions. People who are watching obviously on the Hangout can ask questions via the post that you just clicked on to get into this. So with that, I'll let Kevin give his introduction and make sure everybody's muted just in case they're not. Background noise would be not fantastic. Right, I'll let Kevin take it away.
Thank you very much, Ross. Hello everybody, welcome to this Google Hangout from a story, literally a story which you can sit back and put your feet up and enjoy if you wish. But I would much prefer everybody just to fire in some questions, because the story is one which I think anybody, and literally anybody, can take part in. You don't have to have a technical background. It does help in some respects, but you really don't need to have it. If you've got the eyes to read information online, ask questions and seek help, watch videos, then you could actually do the exactly same thing for your own school, your own establishment. So my presentation tonight, the discussion I want to talk about, is my school's journey from no apps to Google Apps. And I'm going to use a couple of examples that we've had at the school. I'll use some presentation material. I've got a few slides. And any questions that you want to ask throughout, please do feel free to ask. Just because I'm a teacher, you do not need to put your hand up, really. In my class, we don't put hands up. We just sit back and ask questions when we need to. What I want to start off with is to explain a couple of things about me as a teacher. I spent 8 years working abroad in Canary Islands. I came back to the UK in 2009. Specifically because I wanted to pursue my professional development and use of technology further, and I felt I could only do that when I was in the UK. I got in touch with a few of the educators around the UK who were using online Web 2 tools. One in particular was the use of Google Apps. So I started talking to a few teachers using this, and I thought, I want to get to use this as well. Now, the first school I came back to, I didn't get a chance to try out Google Apps, but the second school, the one I'm in now, Old Mill Primary School, basically opened its doors and said, what can you do for us? Can you give us a new direction? Because what we have isn't really working for us. So I'm going to share a screen and take you through the little story at the beginning about how this all how it all happened and what occurred along the way. In the beginning, it's sort of like a Bible sort of bit. This was our current VLE. Now, VLE in England, if you don't know, or the name VLE stands for a virtual learning environment, and the learning environment was similar to this. I didn't want to use the actual learning environment. I don't want to spoil an actual product that you can buy online. But this particular environment was set up free for the school. I had to attend numerous meetings to find out how to actually use it. And I come from a technical background, and I even found it difficult to use. So this learning platform was built up with the so-called nested tables, which went on and on and on. You could click on anything along this list and you could go through and keep going down and down through into nests of different areas. And I thought, this is just mind-boggling for me. Now, if a child came in, they wouldn't even know where to go. They'd just probably sink to the bottom. And not only that, it was very difficult to try and upload anything into the site. So you sort of said to yourself, I really don't know what's going on here. Everything seems to be completely lost. I'm sure I uploaded a presentation. I'm sure I put something in here. I'm sure my teacher showed me what I had to do. But most of the time, nobody knew what was going on. So it just had to stop. That was it. It wasn't working anymore. And I needed to find something that had a better use, a much better way of getting things done. And asking these questions, what do we do, where do we go, and how do we solve this? I was very lucky to be accepted to attend the Google Certified Teachers course, which took place in London in 2010. And on that, I met a lot of educators who told me that, look, Google does more than just search. Google does more than have this amazing way of finding information. You've got a whole suite of apps in the background that you can use with your school, and they're all free. So first of all, I heard the word free, and then I heard amazing, and then I thought, I want to see this. I want to see it working. How does this work? How is this going to work for me? So people sat me down and said, look, you can take everything that you need for your school, and there's going to be a way of getting that from Google, from the apps that Google have. So I sort of said to myself, I need to find out some information. And of course, people point you to things online. So if we could just watch this little video that's on, and afterwards, any questions to this point, please feel free. We'll just watch this video first. So it's a video that's sort of struck a lot with me, and would strike a lot with anybody who wants to think about going Google. And what I had to do first was this bit with my school, which was to think before you jump into with technology, before you go out and buy the latest, shiniest new tablet or get another laptop or buy a new suite, you always have to sit down first and think, what is it that your school needs? What do you want from the technology that you're seeking? What do you want it to do for the school, for the learners in the school? You've got to keep the learning in mind. So I sat down and thought, first of all, the learning platform that we have is shocking. We need something better. We need something that's going to be easy to use, and it's going to give us space online, and not only online space, but actually let us have as much space as we could possibly manage to have. We want email access, because the learning platform that we had it didn't give us the email that we wanted. We wanted to have the options of being able to work together online and to work outside of the school and do work at home and do work in school or anywhere that we wanted to be. We wanted to think about how we could create content, children creating content, learners creating content, and putting it onto the platform for anybody else to use, but also putting it outline so anybody in the world could have a look at. Docs were going to be important. Everybody was using Office applications at school, but being able to use Docs, which would give everybody a chance to do work at home, even if they didn't have the Office applications at home, they could still use Docs at home. We had the options of being able to talk about this work, talk about the entire thing. We could use a platform that would give us a forum where we could discuss. We even had to think about security. Now, schools, of course, security is essential. You're not going to get a platform that has email and collaboration and storage without the security, and we needed something that was going to be absolutely 100% secure, especially with a school which is a primary school with young learners inside it. There was also the ease of use. If you come from a learning platform that is an absolute nightmare to use and you go to a platform that's going to be simple, you're going to see more people wanting to use it. And finally, cost. Every school in the UK and probably all over the world at the moment is facing financial restrictions. So even when we had to do this, we had to think about how are we going to meet the cost? What can we actually find to give us all of this and possibly more? And, well, that was the answer. So anybody who'd like to ask me anything at the moment, please feel free. I'd be very happy to chat if you wish to answer any questions.
Were there any initial concerns about moving in this direction? I mean, it's obviously a very drastic change that you guys were going to make.
It was a big change, but the school hired me because they had heard about the work that I was doing in technology at the first school, and wanted to get me on the strength of that, and they wanted me to come in and show them what was possible with the tools that were out there. The platform that they were using was actually a platform that was built for universities. It wasn't built for schools. And what they were trying to do was to turn the platform into something that children could use. And if staff couldn't use it, then children weren't going to be using it. And it became this place where work content went to die. It just went there and died, and you never saw it again. And that was it. It was a very sad thing. So we needed to change. We needed to have a platform which would create communication, collaboration, a community atmosphere, and get everybody together and working on things at the same time. And the whole Google Apps environment gave us just that. So.
Kevin, how long did it take you from sort of startup to end, the whole process of going Google?
Good question. I was talking about this just before the Hangouts. The process when I first started took me from first option of signing up with Google to create the domain right up to when I could get children using it. Must have taken approximately 6 to 7 weeks.
Oh, right.
You can do that now a lot quicker, because back in the days when I was doing that, I don't want to make it sound like it's so long ago, but even this time last year, it was a year and a half ago when I started setting this up, the process was a lot more difficult. Google have made the process now as easy as possible, to the point where when you actually set up a domain for your school, you can choose a domain name. If your school doesn't have one, or you want to have a new domain name, you can choose one, and if you buy one through Google's partner, is it partner the right word for this, Ross? Or, yep. It's through GoDaddy, and you buy through that, and it's all set up for you. All the records, everything that needs to be done in the background regarding the domain name and Google servers is done for you. In the past, you had to do all that yourself. You had to go in, you had to look at MX records, you had to look at all sorts of gobbledygook stuff. And even as a tech enthusiast, I found it daunting. I had to go online and look up material, research stuff. I was scratching my head thinking sometimes going to pull my hair out. I thought, what have I done? I've said everybody's is going to be great and I can't get it to work. But I did. I stuck at it and I got it. And it felt, in a way, it just felt like I made it, even though I didn't make it. But I felt that I had some part in playing to create this. But now, Google take out all that enjoyment. How dare they? They make it simple. You just press a button and it's done. No, but you still have quite a bit to do. When you set up an environment, you basically have you're the administrator and you're in a field. There's nothing there, and you have to then put everybody into it, and that process takes a bit of work. I've got a website which outlines what to do, 10 steps to take when you set up Google Apps, and I insisted that people sat down and actually drew on a page what they wanted to do and how they were going to set everything up. And I drew out my entire use of the Google platform, the domain, by using groups. And if you set up all the groups first of users, so you have your groups of staff, your auxiliary staff, your senior management teams, the groups of students, divide them into class groups or whatever age groups you want. If you have all that ready, when you go in to import everybody in and put them into groups, it's so much easier and it just starts to work. And if you do that first, do the nitty-gritty behind it, everything else works very well.
What would be your biggest no and biggest...
Sorry.
Okay.
What about the domain? Is it very expensive for getting it?
Domains. Here.
The domain.
Right. I'll show you. This is per year. Okay. How much it costs my school per year to have a Google Apps domain? £1 a year. That's it. The previous platform that we were on cost approximately £2,000 a year, and this costs us £6,000. Now that is because we have to pay. We actually bought a domain name which we preferred rather than the one that we were given by our local authority in England. We actually bought a new one which is better and said more about our school and costs us £6 a year, and that's it. So that is a no-brainer. If a school wants to save money with a platform for learning, mystery surrounds why people would go for other platforms that cost X amount of money or that amount of money. So I'm not here to sell this, by the way. Although I will do my finest and damnedest to make you realize it's a good thing to have.
Did you have excitement from the teachers about this process, or was there some potential resistance that you were anticipating or did encounter?
I had a resistance from the beginning. Everybody just thought, first of all, this was their third platform. When I came to the school, this is the third one. So they had the first, which they didn't like. They got the second, which nobody actually got to use because I told them not to. And then they got the third. And the Google Apps one, once I sat down and showed them, they were all, oh, is that it? And you click here and you set that, oh right, oh that's easy. And that's what it was. And the same thing with the children. With children, and we don't give the Google Apps domain through until you're 8 years old, and we just don't see children younger than 8 using it at the moment. So we start from 8, and 8 is the year group I'm teaching, 8 years old. So I start them off, and then once they leave my class, they continue to use it, even if the teacher in that class doesn't want to use it, because they still have access to it. They still use it. They still use it to communicate with each other, do their homework, create presentations, build websites, and all sorts of other cool things that I didn't think they could do, but they've worked this out for themselves. It's a very simple, easy to use system. If you've not seen it, part of the presentation will take you into the background of my school's Old Mill site. I'm going to just demonstrate it to you as part of this whole presentation. Okay, I'm going to continue the screen share, if that's okay with you. Take you into the next stage of no apps to Google Apps. I'll just fire this up. Just give me a second. There we go. Right, there we are. So we've gone Google Apps at school. I've told you that we took the process. It took 6 weeks for me to get to the point where I could start putting users in and I began slowly. I began by just using my class as the guinea pigs, just to make sure that everything was airtight. But it became such an incredibly useful tool that I had to extend it into another class, and then another class, and then teachers just wanted to start using it as well. So it was a tool that everybody in my school was just saying, I want to have a go, please. Can I have it? Where's my login? I still get children coming up and asking me, can I have a go at this? And I have children from other classes who are now coming to me who are not supposed to be using this, saying, can I have my access to our Old Mill domain on Google? So what I found is basically, as you start using it, over time, the number of users that you have in this just grows exponentially. It just keeps going up and up and up. And one of the main things that I found about all of this is in our senior management team, our governors of the school. The governors of our school have taken to using this whole environment, the whole Google Apps environment, completely. I've been absolutely amazed at how they've taken to it. They use it for all their meetings, for planning events, for coordinating all sorts of manner of things with the school. And I recently sat down with the chair of the governors last week, and he told me that from September he would like to see more teachers in the school using it along the same lines as they are using it, and the children. And he's noticed that there are less staff using it compared to the children. Now, I don't have a problem with that, because it's not costing the school a couple of £1,000 a year. So if people aren't using it, it's not that I'm worried, but I would like to see more of the staff using it. I just think some staff are very much attached to the good old memory stick and carrying things to and fro and all sorts. So from September, there's a new happening from my school, a new direction occurring. Now, I would like to stop this share and show you what's happening in my school right now. And that involves me going into the actual school itself, what we've created. This is my home site when users come in, and it gives them an idea of what the cloud is. We call this the Old Mill Primary School Cloud, or the Old Mill PS Cloud. In the drive, which is now being created, this was a homework created by a child in my class recently. We're studying habitats, and I have not shown him how to use the presentation part of Google Docs. He's worked this out for himself. He's 8 years old. So if an 8-year-old can work out how to create a presentation, import pictures, and demonstrate everything that was in his garden, I would imagine that anybody in a school who calls himself a teacher, an adult, could possibly do exactly the same thing. Children in my last class also used the video part of the Google Apps environment to upload videos. They were using my mobile device, and they created their films, and they just uploaded them straight in to the environment.
I'd like to say that condensation is when gas turns to liquid.
And he created that in his house and then uploaded it into the cloud. So there were children who were doing things that they had never done before. And not only that, it gives you the option of creating your own websites. So, for example, there's this one was called Chalk Mars Bar, and this is a site about the place where she wants to be seen and all the games that she wants her people to play. She's put in links, and they find all this out. Now, it's a very simple site, but this was a 7-year-old. So, if 7-year-olds were working out how to get links and paste them into a page and create a very simple website, the whole idea of using Google Docs, Google's apps for a domain suddenly becomes so useful, and that's why I just had to go with it, and I continue to go with it, and I continue to tell people about it and how great a service and how brilliant it has been for my school. And that is the journey that I have taken from no apps to Google Apps.
Wow.
It's amazing to see exactly what they've done on it and what you've been able to do, which is really good, because you sort of think, oh, is it a long process? Is everyone going to be on board? Should I bother? That kind of thing. But I think I should.
It's incredibly easy. Now, one of the good things about Google Apps is that if you want, you can set up a Google Apps account for yourself. A whole domain if you wanted to. You can buy a domain name for yourself, Buy your own domain name that you've always wanted to have, .com, and then use that and set up Google Apps in that, and then you can just play around with it. Now, all you've done is spend maybe up to £10 for the domain name. You might keep it for 1 year, and then if you don't want it anymore, it's okay, it doesn't matter. But that's it. What you've got then is a domain with all the Google Apps that you can play with. You can set up groups, you can try out sending emails to see the security feature that's in place. You do have to set up email security within the domain, but that is not quite difficult to do. It's quite straightforward. And you can just try things out, and it's all there, it's all free. It's only the domain name costs, but you can give it a go. And then with that, you could actually take that in as an example to your school, your establishment where you work, and say, here, have a look at this. And because it's a Google Apps domain, you can have 10 registered users for free. So you could actually have people join that, have it for free, play around with it, and see what it's like. So why not? For a very limited amount of money. Nodding heads in agreement. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
How many of you have, you've probably used Google's Docs environment yourselves, and you've tried it out, and you've used, the presentation itself was done tonight, was done with the presentation tool in Google Docs. It's a very simple tool to do. I actually had a video to show you which shows some ingenious people sat down and worked out 450 slides for a Google presentation, which shows how you can animate the entire presentation. And it's a brilliant thing to watch. It's one of these things you just let people see to say, look, this is what you can do if you have the time, but this is what you can do. It's a powerful tool. People who do say, oh, but what about all the functionality of the Office packages that we have, that we use? And if you really think about all the functionality that you actually use, you probably find that you've got more than enough of the functionality within the Google Apps environment. Oh, and not only that, you've also got the Google Apps Marketplace. And unfortunately, I might not be able to talk about that because I could probably put in half an hour's version of that and tell you about all the cool stuff you can do there. But one of the cool things in the Google Apps Marketplace is something called Avery, which is a fully laden content creation device, and it allows people to go in and create graphics and artwork. And the best bit, in my opinion, in my class as well, is the music end, where if you've ever used GarageBand on Macs, you've got a front end like that where you can drag and drop loops into it, and you can create these wonderful soundscapes which you can then save into your Google Apps environment. And then we've been using those as part of our film work in class. So it just goes on and on. It is a truly amazing set of tools which really are free. The cost, again, is just the domain name itself.
Kevin, have you had much chance to do cross-collaboration with staff through kind of like Hangouts and shared documents? Is that a common thing that you guys use?
No. My staff prefer face-to-face at the moment. If I try to get my staff to do something like this, it would be a big bonus, but I will just persevere with face-to-face meetings and demonstrations at school at the moment. I have a feeling that this whole type of approach of discussion using Hangouts is a feature that would probably work better in the States a lot more than it would work in the UK, where people just seem to be a little bit more reserved about approaching things like this, unfortunately. But that's in my own school. It could be different in other schools.
No, it's exactly the same in my school.
Well, I'm not sure my staff is going to be very... Yeah, I'm not sure my staff is going to be very open to the idea, but we have distance between 4 schools, and I think it would be a useful tool as far as time-wise to collaborate on some things that normally they wouldn't have a chance to collaborate on.
Like the Hangout feature is something that, of course, it's not for minors at the moment. So your under 13s cannot use this feature, and it's not going to be part of a Google Apps domain unless it's an 18+ domain. Though, if you have a teacher account, so if you have a teacher part, you can set up your own Google Plus Hangout, which you can still use in a way with the class. So if they wanted to take part in a Hangout as a background audience, not as in the front part, if they come into the front of a camera, part of a Hangout, and start asking questions, if it's a live Hangout, you have to have a Google release form signed off to allow the child, if they're under 13, to take part in a live Hangout. But if it's a private Hangout between schools, then I'm sure that the possibilities of connecting school and school for different areas and distances using an environment like this, where you can not only see face-to-face like in a Skype call, but you can collaborate through documents in real time, then it just suddenly starts to create a lot of ideas in my head as an educator and what could be possible.
Kevin, I have a question here from Thomas in the chat.
Yeah.
He's asking, have the changes to Google Drive from Google Docs and now the ability to upload other content, e.g. material, copyrighted music, videos, etc., caused any concerns for apps for education? Will you be taking measures around this?
Good question. And in a primary school background, definitely my primary school, we don't have any difficulties with sort of uploading of content like that. Any content that is uploaded we only allow certain types of content to be uploaded into the environment. Every child within my school has to sign a declaration. It's like an agreement with myself and the child to say that they will use this whole environment properly. They won't upload material they're not allowed to, and a lot of things, rules like that. I've had one person last year who started using the system, nothing for illegal purposes. You know, if you're looking at a 10-year-old, they're not doing anything illegal, but they were using the email to send emails to people they shouldn't have been doing. And because they've broken those rules, they weren't allowed to use the system for a few days. And once they can't use it, suddenly they're like, oh, it's not fair. Everybody else is still using it. I'm sorry, I won't do it again. That's a primary school. In a secondary school establishment, I think you have to be a lot firmer and more strict with the students, with anybody who decides to break these rules, because after all, this whole environment should not be used for such purposes. So if you've got it written into an acceptable use policy and the students break it, then you really have to come down hard on them and tell them they can't use this. Or, for example, in Google Apps, you can turn off specific parts of the app's environment and the services. So if they've been misusing the email, you can turn the email part off for that student. And that means they can still come into the environment, but they can't use the email. Or you may turn off the access to the Google Drive feature, and they can't have access to their docs or upload docs or anything like that. So it is built in, the secure feature like that.
And again, just one thing on that, you can also turn off the sync feature as an admin. Again, the storage has increased, but even before Drive came along, you could still upload files into your Google Apps account. You could upload up to a gig of unformatted storage, if you like. The other thing that I've seen a lot of teachers from traveling around and speaking with them and going to classrooms is that once you actually show, for example, the first time you ever use docs, the first doc you open up with the class is going to be a complete mess, because they're going to delete other people's work and they're going to make a mess of it. And once you show them revision history and the fact that you can't get away, it's always there, the dog ate my homework isn't a viable excuse anymore, those kind of things tend to go out the window quite quickly.
Yeah. It is true. The first time they see a Google Doc being edited live on a screen is a mess, but it's an amazing sort of experience to watch everybody starting to type. So you can have up to, I think it's up to 50 concurrent users at the same time on one doc writing, and it does become a mess, but you can use the feature to do script writing, because scripts are perfect ways to use a Google Docs feature. So brilliant. So any other questions, please feel free.
Sorry, that sounds really good, because at the moment, certainly at school, all of our documents are in the children's folders that we have on the computer, but they're everybody has access to them, so they go in and things get moved and deleted and that kind of thing. How do you stop that from happening in Google Docs?
As Ross pointed out, you've got that revision history where things don't vanish unless they're removed for good.
And who controls that?
Well, with the children,
like can you go in and say, as an administrator, can you go in and retrieve something that's gone awry?
As in, like, a document that's gone missing?
Yeah.
Sorry, Ross?
I'll give you the kind of the definite background, if that makes sense. What has to happen is that nobody else apart from the owner can delete a document. If the owner decides to delete it, they have to actually come out of the document, click on it in the view window where you see all of your documents. They then have to go up and hit delete, move to trash. They then have to hit yes, I'm sure I want to delete it, and then it'll sit in their trash for 30 days. So if the owner wants to get rid of it, they can obviously get rid of it, but there's multiple fail-safes built in. There are also options in there where you can actually share that document with a particular folder, and as the teacher you can then potentially retain ownership.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kevin.
Nope, that's perfect. Yeah, if you've got somebody from Google on board, they may as well answer it. Much better than I. Much better than I. Exactly. It's if I've had instances where people have said their work's been deleted by somebody else, and I've said no, it's not. You're the owner. They can't delete it. You must have deleted it by mistake. But don't worry, it's still there. We retrieve it, and everybody's happy again.
Okay.
Everybody in my class automatically shares work with me as part of their of what they do, so that I can see it, because they use it for homework, so I get to see what they do. And as part of one of the features is they either they can put editing rights into the document, so I can type into the document and change it if I wish, or usually they just let me view it but let me comment as well, so I can make comments along the side of the document, pointing out where they could go better, what they could do better, and so on. So lovely little
We have a
feature.
question We have a question from Dan, and Dan is asking, inside Google Apps Administrator Console, did you set up new domain for students? What's the best practice for setting up various access, staff, students, school help, etc.?
I set up a brand new domain for my school, and after that I worked out on paper who I wanted to be in groups. I wanted a senior management team, the staff, the auxiliary staff, and then broke the children down into year groups, and then I put all that, uploaded it as a CSV file, and then it's laborious at the moment, and it's one feature that I would like Google to try and work on, is you can only put in, I think it's 25 users at a time into groups, rather than selecting everybody and then dump them into a group or so on. So it's 25 at a time. It's just a little thing, a little niggle, but maybe it will be fixed. Maybe that's a way to make sure things are done properly. For 375 people, it doesn't take long to do 25 at a time. But if you've got 1,000+ children or so, staff at a school, then I could see 25 at a time taking a bit of time and getting a bit lost about who's in what group. But once they're in the groups, it's easy to move people into other groups, to remove them, to create groups within groups and nestle groups, but you don't want to go too far down the nestled table. I've been there, I don't want to go back.
Yeah, Dan was actually asking about just that. He was asking about not necessarily access, but groups of users. Yeah,
once you get the groups sorted out, then it really does work a lot. When I want to send an email, I have a group. My class is a group, and I send an email to that group name, and then everybody gets the email. So that feature is quite cool.
Are you able to manage services or restrictions by groups, or do you have to kind of separate by domain at that point?
I can separate. Well, not by domain. If I want to do the whole domain, I can do the whole domain from the main administration window, but if I go through, then I can by group, I can decide who gets what services, and I can go through the groups. I can then pinpoint to groups of children or specific users and say, you are not allowed to use this, you can use that. I can turn off email, for example. We turn off email for children who are 8 when they first come in, and so towards the end of the year they get to have email turned on once they're ready to use it. The email bit as well is contained within the school's domain. It's set up so that users, children specifically, cannot use email outside of the domain. They can only email people within the domain. And any email coming from outside the domain is just bounced back. So there you go. That's
Kevin, sorry.
Yeah, go on, please.
Just really quick question. In terms of e-safety, obviously
Yes.
you've spoken about security and how you can set things up. But in terms of your sort of written e-safety policy within school, what process did you go through? Did you have to add like a big Google Apps chunk to your ICT?
No, I didn't have to add. I didn't have to add anything. The only thing I did was to say, at one part of the ICT policy was to say that our approach to a learning environment would be the use of the Google Apps environment, and then the e-safety that we had in place. We just had to write in for the email part. We could actually write in that our email was incredibly safe. Rather than it not try to say that we were working on so many different things to make sure it was going to be brilliant and filter-proof. We could just say, due to the use of Google Apps, our email is now safe. The end. It was such a nice way to write it. Didn't have to do anything else. So if anybody came to me and said, are you sure? Can I see this happening? I just had to sit down at a computer, log in, and try to send an email to our environment, to a child, and it would just get bounced back.
Okay. As long as it's not going to be a lengthy appendix, I don't mind. That's fine.
Guaranteed. You do not need one.
Good, good.
No.
Okay.
Great. Well, who would like the honour of the last question?
I think Abby's got a questions coming into the chat window. Just seen it pop up. She's saying, her school doesn't have individual accounts for students. Set up Gmail for each of my writing classes to share as a temporary solution. Any suggestions for setting up accounts for each student? I've heard of some doing a +1+2 type thing. I've heard of the +1+2, but I've never used it, and I've never had a need of using it, Abby. So, Ross, do you know any ideas on if she can't have individual accounts, how they could set it up? Have you heard of the +1+2?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing is not to set it up as a consumer account. So whatever you do, whatever way you want to actually provision it or work it out, I would definitely suggest setting up a Google Apps for Education account, because again, you get support and you get all of the various different pieces that you don't get with a consumer account. So first thing is don't set it up as a standard Gmail account. Go to google.com/a/edu to sign up for it. Apart from that, you could use a lot of things. You could actually use possibly Google Groups. Maybe you could set up a Google Group email address for each student. You could also have a class email address, just have one inbox for a class. I think the best thing to do is probably to set it up, and again, as Kevin said, in the early stages, you've got 10 users initially. You can obviously get that increased very quickly, but have a play around with it and see what the best way of doing it. There are limitations, of course, to having people having multiple or having access to many, or many people having access to one mailbox, because the same thing will go for docs. So you won't necessarily have people contributing to it that way. Oh, let me see what. Okay. So they just haven't been communicated yet. I'm not sure. The other thing that I would definitely do, I'll post it in the comments after this session. Is we have a new user group, so it's basically English speaking users in EMEA, so it's a nice broad spectrum of anybody, obviously Ireland, England, but anyone in Europe, Middle East and Africa who wants to join this, ask questions. We've got Google certified teachers on there who are responding to questions. We've got a good, really good community feel, so I'll post that afterwards and post that question out and see what people say.
Yeah, and Abby, if you have any questions that you want to continue with and ask, or any advice for your school, then please do ask it on the profile page, mine, and I'll be happy to help out as much as possible. We want to see Google Apps being used more.
Great.
Okay.
Well, in the interest of trying to keep it as close as possible to the kind of the 45 minutes or so, thank you very much for taking the time to do this, Kevin, and thanks everybody for joining the Hangout, both in here and also people listening out.
Yep. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming along. It's been a really pleasurable experience. Really enjoyed it, and I have to say, thankfully, Anna, it's dark.
Yeah.
Anna's in the dark.
Yeah. I'm a ghost.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone else.